Now that the 2022 NHL Draft has come and gone, we've taken some time to analyze all the picks, all the trades, everything we've seen. Today I'm going to give you who I think were the biggest winners and losers from the 22 NHL Draft. We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're looking at who I feel are the winners and losers of the 22 NHL entry draft. Of course, we saw lots of players selected. We saw some very interesting trades. And just so you know as well, when I'm talking about who I think won and lost, so to speak, the losers were not really big losers. I think for the most part, we saw a lot of teams do a lot of things really well. So even the teams that I've classified as losers, they're not like really bad. So I want to get that out of the way. Secondly, of course, we're not going to talk about every team because this video would be super long, and I will do a series that I'm planning on coming up to dissect the 2022 NHL Draft a little bit further on a team-by-team basis. That's going to be coming up here after free agency, so stay tuned for that if you really like enjoying talking about prospects and all the recent drafted players. But essentially, I'm going to not only be analyzing the selections that they've made with their picks, but the trades that they made as well. So I'm factoring in everything, basically how those 2-day period went and who comes out to me being much better and some of the teams who come out being not as good as they could have been. So a lot of the losing stuff I'm going to classify, in my opinion, is kind of like a missed opportunity. So first up, we're going to go through back and forth here. I'm going to go winner, loser, so that we can hopefully go back and forth and talk about each team. Now, in my opinion, one of the biggest winning teams of the draft, these are also not in any particular order as well, by the way. I'm going to start with the Ottawa Senators. Now, the Ottawa Senators here win the draft day, the first day of the draft, due to the big trade they made with Alex DeBrincat. They put their number 7 pick to excellent use, along with a second rounder and a third rounder in the next 2 years to get a 40 goal scoring winger who's 24 years old, under contract for at least one more year, under team control for at least 2 years. And really at this point, if things continue to go well, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't extend as well to stay and be a part of that team who's taken some major steps forward this year. I thought that Pierre Dorion and the Senators really did a great job and really fleeced the Hawks, in my opinion. I don't think Kyle Davidson's off to a great start. We did hear of a trade earlier in the day that almost happened involving the Sens and the Sabres, and it's a good thing that didn't happen because otherwise they'd be on the other side of the video being classified as a loser here, because that trade that was proposed with Buffalo, if indeed the rumor is 100% true, and it sounds like it is, then that wouldn't have been good at all. But Pierre Dorion quickly regrouped, moved forward, and hit a home run, grand slam right out of the park here, in my opinion. Of course, that took them out of the first round of the draft. We saw them again make several European drafted players after this, so we'll have a quick look here at their players that they selected in rounds 2 to 7 for the remaining picks that they had. I thought they did a relatively good job in that sense, but ultimately, the big thing here was the trade. Now, one of the big losing teams of the day, I thought that kind of had a bit of a missed opportunity, was the San Jose Sharks. For starters, this is the first draft for Mike Grier, and I understand he was only hired within a few days before the draft and really wasn't overly heavily involved here with the prep leading into this. We've seen since that the Sharks have departed ways here with Doug Wilson Jr., who was a director of scouting, who would have had a heavy job involved with getting ready for this draft. But they traded down. They had a number 11 pick in the draft. They make a trade and they move backwards down to number 27. To me, that was a major missed opportunity. I really don't like how things went in that regard. I think they could have got themselves a much higher player. To me, the second half of this draft, there was a lot of, in the first round at least, there was a lot of players taken that were kind of already in that category as, I'd say, a bit of a project or a bit of a riskier pick. And I just don't know. At number 27, they take Philip Bystead, and I just don't know. That seems to be a little bit of a reach to me. I think they had a missed opportunity here to get a higher quality player by staying at number 11. And also, I thought as well they had an opportunity to maybe make a trade or two to try to pick up an additional first or second round pick as well. There's some other players in that team that they need more change. That I'm not sure. They have. Like Kevin LeBank's a prime example. I think needs to change the scenery. Brent Burns could be traded. Like, there's definitely some players there that could have maybe been moved around to change things up to maybe bring in some more picks to help fill the cupboard, because the Sharks certainly don't have a very deep one at that. Next up, one of the winning teams will be the Seattle Kraken, and they're a winner because one, they did a really good job, but secondly, they get the biggest gift, and that's Shane Wright falling to number 4 in the draft. To me, he's still the best prospect. I really like Slafkovsky, don't get me wrong. I understand Montreal's rationale for selecting him, and I think they've done a great job at the draft too. I think they had a really good weekend, a really good couple of days there. But still, Shane Wright is going to be an excellent center to go with Matty Beniers and Shane Wright, 1-2 down the middle for the next decade. Is hopefully going to set up the Kraken to really see some really nice progress here in their development. They also get Jager Furcus as well with their next pick. That to me was an underrated pick. He could have went much higher when he did. So they kind of were taking advantage of other teams' missed opportunities in my estimation here. So overall, I think the Kraken did a really good job and made sure that when other teams passed, they did not pass on some of these top-rated prospects that kind of fell in their lap. Now, another team that I'm classifying as a loser is the Coyotes. The Arizona Coyotes, to me, again, they tend to make some odd selections. And this was common during the John Chayka era, and it continues to be during the Bill Armstrong era. Now, the number 3 pick, with Cooley, I have no issues there. He's an awesome player. Could have went even number 1 or 2 based on how things went on that day. But Logan Cooley, to me, is going to be an offensively gifted, highly entertaining player. I have no problems with that at all. But Connor Geekie at number 11 was way too high of a pick. I have real concerns over Geekie as a prospect. I don't doubt that he's likely to be a player, and I don't have any doubt that he will, play a decent amount of games. I'm not really doubting that, but I just don't know that his upside is as high as some make it out to be, and I think he was more of a player that should have been drafted maybe, I say at least 7 to 10 spots lower. So again, they kind of, in my opinion, went off the board a little bit. Then they also had the number 27 pick in the first round and took Maverick Lamoureux, who's a huge player, but a massive project. Like, to me, there was other players that were a little bit more of a safer pick, like a Brad Lambert, for example. San Jose, the same thing. They also passed on Lambert, which I don't get. Lamoureux is, if they would have taken him with a later pick, I would have been better with it. But the fact that, that they were taking him at number 27, I don't know. Like, again, the Coyotes had some baffling choices here, and I just don't really care for what they did overall. Now, another big winner to me is the Buffalo Sabres. They also had multiple first-round picks, 3, and they made good choices with all of them, taking Matthew Savoy, Noah Ostlund, and Yuri Kulich. To me, they went heavy down the middle. This team is certainly, if you look at their prospect depth around what they have on like young players on their roster and what's coming, the center position appeared to be maybe a little weaker than some. They have some interesting wingers, and they have tons of solid defense, some interesting goalies. It made sense for them to take this strategy, and they made the best of their choices. I really think all 3 of these players are bound to be terrific players. Like, at least they have that potential right now. They're all players that I thought were drafted in good spots. They were not like, off the, out of the picks that were, you'd kind of call it going off the board. Nothing like that. They were kind of right around where you'd expect them to go, and they make sense and good fits for the organization. So I really like what the Buffalo Sabres did here, especially considering they had 3 picks. With the trades they made, if you're not going to put those picks to good use, it's a little bit of a waste. You're almost giving those players away for nothing sometimes. So overall, I really like what they've done here. The Blackhawks, another team that I classify as losers on the day. They did have a good pick with Korchinski, but to trade Alex DeBrincat for that pick and to really, that's why they made that trade, is they really zoned in on wanting Kevin Korchinski. That's the main reason why that the number 7 pick for the Senators became so valuable to them, and DeBrincat was expendable. We already knew they were going to trade DeBrincat, or at least it was likely. We knew they really wanted a first rounder, and they were looking at the top 10 preferably, because it sounds like they really zoned in on this player as being the guy they wanted. And I have no disrespect to Korchinski. He has projections to be a good defenseman. I just don't know that he's going to be a top pair defenseman. So do you trade a early 20s proven 40 goal scorer for that? I don't think so. Like, that's, to me, it's just a bit of a reach. Like, of course they do get Frank Nazar as well. Excellent choice there. I have no problem with that. I do like that. Like I said, I don't have huge issues with the picks. If they would have been picking 7th already and they took Korchinski, I'd be like, okay, a little bit off the board, but not terribly, out of position here. Probably would have taken Korchinski a little lower, but, I understand what they're doing here. But the fact that they had to give away DeBrincat to get the pick, that to me is a big red flag. Like I said, overall, they also traded Kirby Dach. And look what came in there. Like, the Blackhawks came into the draft with no first round picks. So some people might classify them a winner as walking away with 3. But then if you take a look at what they did with them, I'm like, no. Like, Nazar is a good pick. I have no problem with him. But, they had to give up Dach to get that pick, to pick him. So is he going to be better than Dach? Like, I don't know, right? So I like Nazar as a player a lot, but it's questionable, And then, of course, their third first rounder, they take Sam Rinzel, who I think is a bit of a reach. Another player I'd kind of classify as a bit of a project, and I can stretch that he's going to be a solid NHLer. So I just don't know with what they gave up. Like I said, if they would have had other players they would have traded, or if something would have worked out differently and how they got these picks, I wouldn't have probably been so critical of them. But the fact of what they gave up between Dach and DeBrincat, and this is what they walk away with, I just don't see the Hawks being any better. Like, to me, Kyle Davidson is doing an embarrassing job giving players away. And then, like I said, on top of that, since the draft, he's let Dylan Strome and Dominic Kubalik walk. He buys out Henrik Borgstrom when he could have just buried him in the minors for one year, $1 million. Like, I just don't understand the moves he's making. To me, like, I understand they want to tear it down and really strip it down and go for Connor Bedard next year, but like, holy jumpins', like, they're going about this the wrong way. Another big winner for me, is the Columbus Blue Jackets. They had multiple first rounders, and they walk away with David Jiricek and Denton Mateychuk, 2 of the top defensemen in this draft. Like I said, now Chicago, if they could have got themselves Jiricek with the DeBrincat trade, okay, I'm still not a fan of the trade for them, but I think it would have been much better. Columbus walks away with 2 really solid defensive prospects here. They make really good use of their picks. They're obviously going heavy in the D after having a lot of forwards picked in the last couple of years. And to me, I thought Kekalainen and his staff did a tremendous job. So they really made good use of those picks. The St. Louis Blues, I'm classifying in the losing category here. Not a terrible job, but they took Jimmy Snuggerud with pick number 23. Not a terrible pick. Some would classify as a bit of a reach. They need some cap space, though. I thought they had an opportunity to trade Vladimir Tarasenko, and they didn't do it. They really want to bring back David Perron, and they need to shed some money. And I thought we could have seen St. Louis been a little bit more involved with the trades to kind of free up some space and maybe get another player or two for the future. I don't really have a big issue with Snuggerud. I think he has the potential to be a good scoring winger. I just wonder if they could have even maybe traded back an extra asset and maybe taken him a little bit later. But that's just me. Like I said, some of the teams I'm classifying as losers here, like St. Louis, even to a degree, like San Jose and Arizona, like not huge losers. It's just, I think they could have been doing things a little bit differently. Another losing team as well, the Florida Panthers. Obviously really low on picks. So clearly they gave away a lot of picks and didn't make it far in the playoffs. So, it's not something that happened at the draft, but they left themselves really short and depleted in that sense. Obviously their first pick was number 93. And even that pick of Merrick Alshner at 93 seems like a bit of a stretch, a bit of a reach as well. So again, just another odd choice for that first pick. You're waiting all that time to make your first selection, and I get it in a way. You're a strong team with a deep group of forwards and deep on defense. Like, they're a pretty deep team overall, so you feel like you can maybe take a chance with some of these selections, but you don't have very many of them. I just don't know if I'd want to be wasting them on on this kind of player. Like, I would want to take somebody who I think is a little bit more likely to be a player, but when you're only picking that late in the draft, it's hard anyway. So like I said, it's harder to be tough on Florida here just because of where they put themselves. But again, another team that would like to bring back Claude Giroux. They like to keep Ben Chiarot. They can't do it because they need cap space. So again, an opportunity that maybe they could have made some moves to get maybe back into the second round or even late first round or something to that effect, but they weren't able to do it. So certainly, I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity. So like, really, when it comes to St. Louis and Florida, San Jose, I'm kind of giving them a hard time for not making moves to clear some space and make more picks. The teams that classified as losers, really didn't do that badly, but somebody's got to go into that category to make this kind of video, and we do this every year after the draft. The last team we're going to talk about here is being a winning team. Had a fantastic couple of days as the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously going the first pick overall, Slafkovsky, is a great pick. I still think Shane Wright might be the better player long term, but that's still early. I thought that before the draft. I haven't seen anything to change my mind here as of yet. Obviously, once we see them play a couple of years in the NHL, we'll see if I change my mind or not. But I'm not going to give them a hard time for taking Slafkovsky because I think it was really, really close. He is a really good player and has potential to be a really top stud winger for them. So certainly I'm not going to give them a hard time over that. They also make the trade for Kirby Dach. They gave up Romanov to make it happen, which but you know what? They can afford to do it because of all the defensemen that they have right now. I just don't know that he would have been the guy that I would have moved. But at the same time, it is what it is. They have lots of young D coming. Clearly, they felt like it was a situation that they could afford to do it. And I really do like Kirby Dach as well. So that could be a great pickup for them. Of course, taking Philip Mazar with their next pick after Slafkovsky, another Slovakian. Good buddies, completely different kind of player. Smaller, skilled guy. Could be a good fit longer term. They get Owen Beck later in the first round. Owen Beck's not like a guy who's going to wow you with a lot of stuff, but he does a lot of things well. They get Lane Hudson a little bit late as well. Has real potential. I think he's a player that could have went much higher. So I think they did a real good job drafting. The trades worked out well. They certainly made a big splash with the home crowd. And overall, I think certainly you can see Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes are not afraid to be bold. They're not afraid to do things that are a little bit outside the box. They're not afraid to go with their gut on decisions, and at the same time not always afraid of what people are going to think. They're going to do what they think is best, and we'll have to wait and see if it works out for the best. But as of right now, looks like they had themselves a really good draft. So let me know your thoughts on who you think is the winners and losers of the 2022 NHL Draft. We can discuss further down in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.